Hi everybody. I hope that you have a good time during this coronavirus crisis at home, staying at home. So be so useful, and also it is something boring for everybody. Today we will talk about two topics. The first topic is about the organizational structure and design. As you know, the structure and design is for building everything in the world. The structure is the basic part, as in the organizations. So we need the structure and design for an organization, and the type and different types of structures and design for an organization should be discussed as a basic element for a manager, for a leader to know and to understand. So at first, we will talk about the learning objectives, that after studying this chapter, what is expected you to know. It is identify the elements of organizational structure and describe mechanistic and organic structures, two types of organizational structure, and to explain what influences an organizational structure. And three, describe the basic types of organizational structure. And after that, identify and discuss four contemporary issues in organizational structure. At first, we want to talk about the organizational structures and the type of organizational structure and the basic definition, conceptual definition, and operational definition of organizational structure. What is organizational design? The process of selecting and managing aspects of organizational structure and culture to enable the organization to achieve its goals. So, when we are talking about the organizational design, it is something more than organizational structure. Honestly, organizational design has two parts, organizational structure and organizational culture. Together, organizational structure plus organizational culture, it is called finally organizational design. And organizational design is a process in some type of acting, some type of doing, the process of selecting and managing. At first, selection, and second, managing the selected item. The process of selecting and managing aspects of organizational structure and culture to enable the organization to achieve its goals. As you know, everything in an organization is designed, is there, is being, is existing because of organizational goals. Why? What is the philosophy? What is the basic essence of shaping an organization? It is because of the goals. Sometimes it is, for example, non-profit organization, the goals are materialistic, but it is not, for example, financial goals. It is only for service to other people as a non-profit organization. Or a lot of part of organizations has at the basic part, at the basic level, has a lot of financial and economic goals, earning money and productions and services and other things. So two types and two elements here are very important to shaping an organization to achieve its goals. At first, organizational structure, and second, organizational culture. As we said before, together, these elements together are called organizational design. And it's a type of acting, type of being, type of doing for shaping an organization. And it is organizational structure as a one part of organizational design. It is the system of task, reporting, and authority relationships within which an organization does its works. The system of tasks, reporting, and authority relationships within which an organization does its work. It is organizational structure. It is priority in an organization, who is CEO, who is CFO, who is the simple workers and mid-level manager. Why we have some structure in an organization to achieve the goals of an organization. It is interact together in different level of authority within an organization. Authority is a very, very important part of administrating an organization. Why? It is not about the power, as we talked before about the power. And again, in leadership course, we will talk to you about the power and different types of power. Also in this course, we have talked about the power. But authority is something more than power. It is not the same power. Power is the tools for authority. If you have authority and you don't have any power to do something, it is not authority. It is only responsibility without any power, any force, any authority to answer. It is only responsibility. Okay? So organizational structure talks about the different parts and elements of an organization, how to connect together to achieve the goals. This is the first part and the first element of organizational design. The core of what coordinates, controls, and motivates employees to cooperate toward the attainment of organizational goals. So we have two parts, two elements in the main core of the organizational structure. One, authority. Two, employees. How employees, different parts of employee, different level of employee work together to achieve their organizational goals. It is first part of organizational structure. The second part is the core of what coordinates, controls, and motivates. So coordination, control, and motivation are the employee base and employee base level of organizational structure to cooperate toward the attainment of an organizational goal. And what is organizational chart? Describe the structure of an organization. Okay. Finally, we have shaped the organization, and we know about the type of relationship between the different levels of authority and different levels of employee-based authority, and how coordinate, how motivation, how control the task of the employees, and how is the what is the way of authoristic base of managers and supervisors and leaders. Okay, so what? Finally, how can you transfer these data and this structure to the next managers, or no, today for using and diagnosis the different efficiencies and different deficiencies in the organizations? It is done by a chart, and it's called structural organizational chart, organizational graph, organizational framework. It is talk about it is diagram. It is talk about the different parts and how they are related together and how they are doing their task and their responsibility, and finally for achieving their organizational goals. So it is described the structure of an organization, show all people, position, reporting relationships, and lines of formal communication, and other things. Sometimes it is called organizational chart, organizational diagram. I've never seen organizational framework. What the basic concept of diagram and chart is under framework is that, as the Chinese saying says, that a diagram talks more than 10,000 words. As in America, we say that actions speak louder than words. In Chinese, they said for visual perception, they said that it is an old saying, in Chinese old saying that says a diagram speaks more than 10,000 words. Why? Because the visual perception is the basic perception for rapid accessing to the data. For example, if you want to read a book, okay, it may be 2 weeks at least, but you can see the movie about that book, for example, for 2 hours. It is a visual perception of that book. Not the same visual, but a very rapid and very perceptualistic. You have some good perception about something. So organizational chart and organizational diagram shows all the coordination and forces and motivation and relationship between different parts of an organizational leadership, organizational management, and also different level of task for employees, how they are working together to achieve their organizational goals. And organizational structure, it is characteristic of organizational structure. So we are talking about the first part of the organizational design. The first part is organizational structure. We review the data. Before that, organization, the system of task reporting and authority between the different part of authoristic parts of organization, and also coordination, control, and motivation between the employees to achievement and to attainment of the organizational goals. And after that, we talk about the organizational chart, the structure of an organization. People, positions, reporting relationships, and lines, and other things. Okay. What are the characteristics of organizational structure? What are the features of organizational structure? Which organizational structure is a good organizational structure, efficient organizational structure? What positive organizational structure, different word that we can use to be an to have an effective organizational structure? What are the features, what are the traits, what are the characteristics of organizational structure? As you see here, we have 5 characteristics for an organizational structure. Division of labor as the basic of the every humanistic industry, every industry, every organization and management. At the first, it is labor division or the work division or division of labor, span of control, hierarchy, formalization, and centralization. As you know, these are the basic parts of changing the human resource, centralization and formalization. Division of labor. So we have 5 characteristics for the organizational structure, 5 features, 5 traits. That basic is division of labor, who is who in an organization. And second, span of control. Span of control, it is related to the authoristic or authority, managers, leaders, and different levels of management in an organization. As we can see, their behavior, their actions in an organization related to the span of control. And hierarchy is very, very familiar word in management because of the psychological part of management. For example, from Abraham Maslow, is basically upon its basis is upon the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of needs. And formalization, how to shape the formal and informal relationship between the different parts of organization, and centralization. Division of labor, the extent to which employees specialize or generalize. Are you an expert in your organization? Is the task they are expected you to do is it a specialization task, a specialized task, or no? It is a general task. For example, as a guard, as a general guard in a shopping center in an organization, some types of proficiency it has for some types of specific guard or specific guardians. For example, bodyguards. It needs some type of special skills to be a good bodyguard, and specific knowledge, a specific attitude. And you should be trained a little by details, not general. What if you are, for example, a computer programmer, a programmer for softwares? Every time you are passing forward to achieve your goals, and an organizational, for example, for producing softwares, every section needs some specialized and special people and expert people for that section. There is no software engineer for all parts and all categorization of programming. Every engineer, every software programmer has a special knowledge, special skills, and specific knowledge about the specific area. It is not generalized, it is very specialized. So division of labor is the basic part of shaping and administrating an organization. If the proper people, if the appropriate people are not at their proper and appropriate position for a task, it will waste the cost and time and energy of organization. Why? Because it isn't the right person in the right place. As a manager, as a leader, as an organization developer, as you will be, or you may be in the future, that some people invite you to shape an organization, to design an organization. One of the basic things is that you know about the specialization you need in that organization and what people are appropriate for that position, for that task. It is very regular in other parts, for example, out of the industry. For example, casting or choosing the actor and actress in movies, in cinema, in Hollywood is a very, very professional task in Hollywood. Some people in all around the world, not even in Hollywood, all around the world, some people are expert to know the actors and actresses. So when you want to make a movie, they go and they will visit those professionals, those experts, and ask them for this, for example, role playing, which actor or actress is good, is proper, and they know. It is very specialized. It is casting. As you see the title of movies, you say, for example, someone is casting. Casting is the same one that chooses the actor and actresses, the artists, for the proper role, proper act in a movie. Okay? It is very specialized. Sometimes division of labor in an organization is like something casting in cinema. Which is, you know that which task you have at first and what positions are defined for the tasks. And after that, which group of specialists, which group of experts are good for that task or for that position. It is division of labor. And span of control, the number of people reporting directly to an individual. When you are talking about the management, about the leader, one of the things is the span of control. Why? As a conceptual fact, not as an operational fact, as a conceptual fact, you know that management is the art of administration. And it has two parts. Who administrates and who is administrated. Two parts, objects and subjects. Who administrates and who is administrated. The span of control is a relationship with two parts, manager and employees. And you know, we don't have only one manager in an organization. Even in startups and even in small size organization, basically, you cannot have only one manager. Why? Because different level of task, different level of authority needs different level of managers. So we have low-level managers, mid-level managers, and high-level managers, or up-level manager, or upper echelon managers. Okay? So, span of control is related to the number of people reporting directly to an individual. This is the subsystem, which is subcategorization of your management. It is the second part of organizational structure. The first part is who is appropriate for a specific type of, for example, tasks for a specific position. Second, who is the manager and to which extent, how many people in which position. It is sometimes about the amount of people. No, it is sometimes about the role of people. Which roles, which departments, which group, which team should directly report to you, for example, as a manager. It is a span of your control of your manager. And third one is hierarchy. Hierarchy is the degree to which some employees have formal authority over others. Hierarchy is, as we said before, it is about the Maslow hierarchy of needs. It is the degree to which some employees have formal authority over others. It is in the base and up and upper and upper and upper and upper And at the last part and the last point, the ending point is, for example, for CEO, for general manager. And formalization, the extent to which organizational rules and procedures are written down and closely followed. This is formal. It's an order. It is a formal rule for an organization. You should obey that rules. If you want to work here, okay. The basic part for formalization is for administrating. Why you should write down the rules, because you can train after that, train people, train employees based upon the rules. And you can have a doctrine or a discipline for your organization. Why written? Because when it is written, it is very clear and very simple. And because of that you want to teach others the rules of your organization as a manager, as a leader, you should write down and make it simple, 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 until they reach the simplest form for understanding very, very, very lower level people. Why? Because if you don't have a good literacy about the, for example, English words, and their organizational rules are so good, are not so clear, are not so easy, at different parts, the different parts of your employees cannot understand what you are talking about. Why? It is very complicated. So formalization, it is about the formal and written parts of your organization. And the last element of organizational structure is centralization, the degree to which power and decision-making authority is concentrated at the higher level of organization rather than distributed. We have different parts of centralization. For example, democratic centralization is based upon not a single person, not a single manager, not a single leader. It's the central for power owning, for power holding. He or she is not the same and the first person to answer the question about the authority in an organization, but there's a board of director, for example. It is governance issues. It is governance department, for example, board of directors. No, sometimes, for example, as a president of one country, this centralization is focused upon one person. Why? Because one person. It is not the board of presidency. It is presidential board. It is president of one country. It is centralization is very focused on one person, but he or she has a lot of people around him or her that can consultant, that can be consultation and advise and guide and other things for proficiency and expert for the areas of proficiency and to be expert that the president is not from that areas. Okay, she should have a lot of, for example, secretaries and counselors and other people that can help a president to make the good decisions about the future or the present status and present situation of a country. So centralization is very, very important. Why? Because the decision makings that which are made by a person, by a manager, by a leader, with a high level of centralization can be very, very dangerous for other levels of organization if he or she doesn't have any good consultation with other experts in the areas that he or she is not expert in that areas. Okay, you can see the narrow span of control, for example, president, vice president, manager, associates, and different parts. And you see, for example, for two parts, president has two vice president, each vice president has two manager, and each manager has two department, each department had three associates and other things. This is a very narrow span of control. And wide span of control. In narrow span of control, you have some parts of near together. One president, two vice president, two managers, two departments, tree, for example, subcategorization or subsystem is another thing. It is wide span of control. So in span of control, at one part, it is the extent to which a person can control and how many people are under control of his or her responsibility or department. But as a diagram, we can see it is wide and it is narrow span of control. Other things about the organizations, it is about the nature of organizations. Is it mechanistical? Is a mechanistic structure and organic design or organic structure? Sometimes you can assume and you can guess that what are the basic differences between the mechanistic designs and organic design or mechanistic structure and organic structure. When we are talking about the mechanic, in our consciousness, it is associated the word of rigid. It is not flexible. It is very rigid, sometimes good. For example, a wall at your home is a mechanical structure. Why? We need rigidity in a wall. If a wall is not so rigid, it is not good. It's not good wall. It is a very flexible, sorry, it is not wall. Also in postmodern conceptualization, sometimes, for example, they assume that some walls are flexible, but in reality and the ordinary people for ordinary homes, for ordinary walls, it is not very soft and very smooth. It is very hard and rigid, a wall. So we don't have any good or bad. We have appropriate or not appropriate design for an organization. Some design for some types of organizing and a company or an organization is good and effective and positive, and the same design, the same type of administration for other organizations with different nature of administration or different nature of production is not good and effective and positive. So at first, we know that mechanistic structure is rigid, traditional bureaucracy. Bureaucracy, as you know, is the paper-based relationship between the different parts of an organization. It is bureaucracy. And dominancy of everything has the suffix so-called cracy. For example, in Latin word, demo is the meaning of the meaning of demo is people. When you say democracy, it is the dominancy of people. Zeus or Theo is the religion. When you say theocracy, it is the dominancy of religion, for example, in a government. And when you say bureau is in the same organization, office, it is bureaucracy, it is dominancy of or dominancy of paper-based relationships in a company. So mechanistic structure, what is the tools of mechanistic structure? The paper, the written, the orders, very, very rigid, very, very clear, very, very exact, conceptual, but sometimes it is not so good because it wastes a lot of time, especially in the modern time and in the modern life. After, for example, beginning the 21st century, it is not so appropriate for this type of lifestyle. In the contrast, organic structure flexible and decentralized. It is not centralized in one person or one task. It is very flexible from one part of organization. It is organic. It is life. Like other live beings, organic structure for an organization is very flexible, very not emotional, but it has a lot of motions. Okay, very motivation, inspiration, and other things, and very, very flexible. It is like a dance. Organic design for a company, for an organization, it is like a dance. You will have some reactions to the external parts of organization based upon your flexibility. And hierarchical communication, but you see in organization structure, it is decentralized. And open communication channels. It is not high. For example, you should pass the first manager, the second manager, the third manager. Finally, you can talk to the general manager if it is necessary in a mechanistic design, mechanistic structure for organization. But in organic, it is very, very open channel communication. It is not about chaotic relationships. Honestly, organic design, it is not chaotic design. If something is chaotic, it is not organization. You are talking about organize something. When there is some chaotic form of behaviors, chaotic form of communication, it is not organization, it is chaos. But the first part and the basic part of the live and organic design for a structure, it is open channel communication, not chaotic. What does it mean? It is not so hard to communicate with other parts of organization with a very, very legal and predefined permission to talk or to communicate. It is very interactive, not communication. And uniform job descriptions focus on adaptability. Many may minimize costs, yes. Faster response to market and competitive changes. Very, very competitive. It is live, and competition is a live process. Dead people don't have any competition. Why? Because they are not alive, they are dead people. So competition and competitive value and competitive added value and competitive change is basically on the monitoring and the assessment and evaluation and by other companies, other people outside the company. So in psychology and positive psychology, we say the best type of competition is self-competition, and it is never-ending improvement. Slow to capitalize on new opportunities, may increase job satisfaction and commitment. Now we are in coronavirus crisis. Live organizations, live countries with live organizations like North American has a good adaptability to this change. Why? Because before that, they have some good basics, some foundations for a flexible trading, flexible business. For example, you know, a lot of companies has closed their office locations and move and transfer the company and the task and the employee to their employee homes. Why? Because it is very good now. Why? Because it is closed everything. This is coronavirus, so nobody can go out. You should stay at home. Okay, but does it mean out of work? Not necessarily. But the companies based on bureaucratic disciplines and bureaucratic organizations close the company, close the job, close the location, close the job. So these days and these types of lifestyle, modern and sometimes postmodern lifestyle, needs organic designs. And there is no force to adopt the organic design. There is no force. It is a chance, not a choice. But if you cannot choose your chance, you will have some mandatory choice. Why? Because if you use your right of choice or you don't use. If you don't use, okay, the right of choice will be lost in the future, and you should accept everything is in your way. There is no chance, and there is no choice after that. So organic design for the contemporary organizations is a very, very, very necessary part of shaping organizations. For example, you see here Nordstrom Employee Handbook, number 25. Nordstrom has been a pioneer in retailing. For years, its new employee received a handbook consisting of a simply gray card containing 75 words. Welcome to Nordstrom. We are glad to have you with our company. Our number one goal is to provide outstanding customer services. Set both your personal and professional goals high. We have great confidence in your ability to achieve them. You see sometimes a spectrum between the mechanistic and organistic continuum here. It is a rigid bureaucracy and second bureaucracy run by management team. Model 3, bureaucracy with cross-dependent meeting team and task force. Model 4, matrix organization. Model 5, project or team-based organization. And Model 6, loosely coupled organic network. You see we have two extreme parts. One, rigid bureaucracy, and 6, loosely coupled organic network. It's very extreme part, very extreme point. So ordinary organization cannot be at the, for example, model 1, the maximum mechanical structure or organic structure. In the middle between model 3 and model 4, especially model 4, matrix organization is a very good type for organizing a company. And we talk about the characteristic of organization, review again. Division of labor, span of control, hierarchy, formalization, and centralization. And we talk about the organizational chart, about the span of control, narrow span of control, and wide span of control, and mechanistic and organic designs for organizational structure and different parts and different elements. And finally, we talk about the Nordstrom Employees Handbook and about the range that between one extreme is mechanistic structure and the second one is organic structure. The next question is, what influences organizational structure? What are the elements that can influence the shaping of organizational structure? 7 elements are very important in shaping an organizational structure. 1, business strategy. 2, external environment. 3, nature of talent. 4, organizational size. 5, expectations of employee behavior. 6, organization's production technology. And 7, organizational change. These are the factors, these are the 7 factors that can influence the organizational structure. 1, business strategy. And we have talked about it in previous sessions. The strategy is about how and where in the future we want to go as an organization, not as a person. Also, we have, for example, personal strategy planning. A type of success coaching is personal strategy planning. But now it is business strategy. About the business system. Why? Because we are talking about the organization. Being a low-cost producer would require a more hierarchy, a rigid structure than would pursuing an innovation strategy. For example, this is an example of business strategy. This company, these managements, these leaders, with some type of example for business strategy, their focus is on the rigidity and lower cost, not on the innovation. Is it good or is it bad? It is related to your culture, organizational culture. Is it related to your production? For example, sometimes a production is basic traditional production. And the consumers and the customers are always wanted the traditional part. For example, about the beer market, you can see a lot of people like to, for example, you use beer in traditional forms, not in cans, for example, in very, very old wood containers and other things. But rigidity is not always good. It's not always good. Sometimes good, sometimes not good, sometimes bad. But it is being a low-cost producer would require a more hierarchical, rigid structure than with pursuing an innovation strategy. It is as an example for business strategy. But external environment. In the previous session, in the last week, we talked about the locus of control, external locus of control and internal locus of control. And I talked to you that the locus of control is a very primary concept in psychology. Why? Because when we want to talk about and to think about the psychology of behavior, what are the shaping elements, what are the influential factors in shaping an organization and in behavioral organization behaviors and also in individual behaviors. One of the first structure, one of the first definition that the scientists in psychology had gained was that locus of control. How do you think about your control of your life? What is the locus of your control of your life? Do you think that you are a parameter and a function of your external elements, or no? You are your destiny maker. You can make your destiny and choose the life in the way you want. This is locus of control. And there are different definition and different characteristics which are gained from the different parts and different types of locus of control. But the first and the basic categorization of locus of control is external locus of control and internal locus of control. Okay? So now we are talking about the external environment in an organization as an influential factor on organizational structure. For example, a rapidly changing environment requires a more flexible structure than a more stable environment. Why? Because when your environment, when your external parts, external elements of your organization are changing so fast, if you have a very traditional and sometimes modern but rigid and not flexible company, you cannot change and adapt and adjust with the external changes. And because the external changes had to give very, very more greater forces in contrast with you rather than your company, your organization will be destroyed. Okay? And nature of talent. Talentology, or the knowledge of talents and defining talents, is the first part of psychology. About, I think, 130 years ago, the scientific psychology was founded by starting the American Psychological Association and other associations and scientists and laboratories, especially in Europe, by Wilhelm Wundt, 1776, I think. Wilhelm Wundt, the father of modern psychology, experiential psychology, and he tested a lot of psychological tests, again, on the animals and after that on people and humanistic beings, human beings. Okay? After that, the first part that we want as psychology, we wanted as psychology to know about the talent and strengths in human beings was the intelligence. As you know, in 1905, in 1905, we had published in France by a scientist, I forgot his name, Binet, George Binet, Joseph Binet or George Binet. Binet was the first creator of intelligence tests. And after that, the test in 1916, the test was brought to American Stanford University. And after socialization, after standardization with the standards of American society, it upgraded with an American in English language because the first test was in French language by Binet. So what was the test about? The test about the testing and assessment about intelligence. Why? Because the intelligence is the first part of for every human action that can affect all the areas of his or her life. Also after that, a lot of tests, a lot of new concepts was coming up in the area of psychology, in the area of management, even sometimes in the area of philosophy. But now, strength finding, talent finding, that I am very interested in this field, is a very major part of decision makings. Not only as a science, it is not basic science. It is about the basic parts of people, yes. It's about your talent, about your strengths, about your inner world or inner abilities. But it's not basic science. It is very applied science. Why? Because you see that managers now, for example, some tests like DISC, D-I-S-C. DISC is a personality assessment test, not only for organization, but it's widely used in organization. It's a very validated uh, test for decision makings in organizations. So, nature of talent. In work is a professional skills and need to work together, then a flatter team-based structure would be more appropriate than a taller bureaucratic structure. Why? It's very clear. You see that when you want, for example, in Amazon, in Microsoft, in Google, in every modern company and organization, that the base part of company is on the flexibility, working together for gaining a shared goal or a shared meaning, for achieving a shared goal or share meaning. It's basically, the base part is about the working together and specific to working together, not general people. It is specific parts. It is the nature of talent. What is the role and what is the importance? How much is important to be a talent in a company? It is nature of talent. Something more than the specialization, something more than to be expert. Everyone can be expert, but everyone cannot be talent in every area. Talent is very specific area. Also, it's good for everybody to invest on their talent more than invest on the areas that they didn't have any talent. Why? Because if you invest your energy, your money, your time on the areas that you are not talented, you will be much frustrated after sometimes. Why? Because more work, more giving, and less taking. You cannot gain what you want and what you have desired at first for gaining in your process of your journey as a life, as a journey as a manager, as a journey as a human being. The next factor influences organizational structure is organizational size. Why? When we're talking about the organizational size, sometimes it is different between organization and business. For example, we say small businesses and large organizations or large businesses, large companies. Larger organizations tend to have greater specialization, greater hierarchy, and more rules than the smaller firms. Why? And what is the influence of this factor on the organizational structure? When you are talking about the organizational structure, you are talking about the two parts. One, the relationship between the manager, supervisor, and leader. Two, the coordination, motivation, and control of employee between themselves and also in relationship with the other parts of company. It is the influence organizational structure, influential factor. So the organizational size is very important. It is very important that how many people can work in an organization. A small business or a great company like, for example, Ford. It is about the AT&T. It is about the Toyota and other great companies. More great company, more greater rules, more detailed specialization. Why? Because the control is very important. And as we said here in America, they said, we have zero tolerance. Why? Why zero tolerance? It is a job or it is an organization or it's a school. No, when you're talking about the zero tolerance, it has been that we are so great. For example, as Nordstrom, as Macy's, the companies that they are giving to people a lot of services, as Walmart, as Costco. They say in their company to the employees that we have zero tolerance. Why? Because we are so great. And if you do a little mistake as an employee, it will getting greater and greater and greater because we are great. So it is zero tolerance. Organizational size is very, very important factor to influence the organizational structure. And based upon the organizational size, based upon the business strategy, we have some behavioral expectation of the employee. And we want our employee to have some specific type of behaviors and a specific type of behavioral outcome, not only behavior as an observable component, behavior as an outcome in an organization. Your behavior is not only the observable part of you. When you are working in an organization, your behavior is in the line of producing some services or production or byproducts. So in an organization, the major part, the major factor of definition as a good or bad behavior of the employee is their behavioral outcomes, not only the observable behaviors. So if employees are expected to follow explicit rules and procedures, a more hierarchical, centralized structure would be called for. We want to grade your outcome and outputs by the hierarchy, by the rules, by the predefined definitions. And organization production technology. I'm so interested to talk to you, to all the students in their bachelor degree, in their master degree, and sometimes in PhD, about the basic and crucial differences between science and technology. Because as a concept, it is very important for every human that he or she is studying about the science and technology. It's very important to know the difference, because sometimes people, ordinary people out of academia or universities, expect, for example, technology to produce science, or necessarily science produce technology. It is not true, because you have two types. At first, very, very simple definition of science. We have two types of science: basic sciences, like physics, like chemistry, like biology, like mathematics, and applied science, like, for example, applied physics, computer science, management, psychology. Even psychology is not, now, and these days, psychology has two parts. One part, an experiential psychology in the laboratories, and other part is basic science. Basic studying about the human and animal behaviors and mental processes. It is basic psychology. But as a clinical psychology, industrial psychology, organizational psychology, engineering psychology, social psychology, and other parts of psychology, it's an applied science, it's not basic science, because you can use the gains and the facts of research in real life of people, in manipulating, in changing, creating changes, or at first description, explanation of what you are observing as a scientist in psychology, for example, or in management, or in leadership. So we have a lot of differences between science and technology. This position is not the good position for talking about it, but I highly recommend you to know about the differences, because if you want to be a good leader and a good manager, expect out of the knowledge it is necessary for management, which is managerial knowledge or leadership knowledge, you should know about the literature and art also. And these parts of differences between science and technology is the combination of artistic discussions and philosophical discussion about the philosophy of science and philosophy of mind. And if the firm uses the unit production and makes custom products, a flatter structure with a low managerial span of control is most appropriate. And final factors that influence the organizational structure is organizational change. how much of change is necessary for survival of an organization in a society or in the world? As you know, some different organizations all around the world have the responsibility to protect the other organization to survive in a timeline, for example, of 10 years. One of them is World Monetary Fund. World Monetary Fund is the basic monetary fund established with a lot of great banks all around the world, especially in North America, to control and to give some money to other companies or other countries to survive for a long term and to have a stability. Also, we have some economic and political discussions about the goodness or badness, efficacy or not efficacy of these decisions, for example, of World Monetary Fund or economic parts of of UN, United Nations. But organizational change is very important because coronavirus crisis is not very ordinary. Coronavirus is not so ordinary, but it's it's a real part of our life that suddenly the world gains a shock. A very, very microscopic particle have a shock in the economy, in their real life, in their lifestyle, family planning, and other things all around the world. If the organization doesn't have any good changeability to adapt and adjust with the external or internal necessary and sometimes sudden changes, it will be destroyed. For example, as the environment and the business strategy change, organizational structure change too. It is an example of organizational change as a factor. Production technology is very important. We have unit production and mass production and continuous production. It's very simple definition in concept and very, very hard definition in operation. As you know, the technology begins with unit technology and unit production, one by one. The first one that created the concept of mass production was Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Company, Ford Car Company. And Henry Ford, in addition to be a very good industryman and very good initiator in the industry of car production, I think he was an industry philosophy. He was a thinker about the philosophy of technology, why and how technology can do something better and better and better for the world, and what are the disadvantages of using technology. I think mass production, that was the first published and first founded by Henry Ford, is a greater part of change, technology-based changes all around the world. Because before that, it is unit production, producing small batches or making one-of-a-kind custom products. It's very custom, it is tailor-made. But mass production, large volume of identical products. And continuous production. Machines constantly make the product and employees monitor the machines and plan changes. It is a combination between the machines and industry, the non-humanistic part of industry and humanistic part of industry as the employees. Types of organizational structure, bureaucratic structure, and functional structure. As you can guess from the name of title of the structure, it's bureaucratic and functional, and also divisional structure and matrix structure. There are clear parts about the organizational structure, but matrix structure as the final part of organizational structure is very interesting. Employees report to both a functional manager and to a project or product team. If you come back to this part, functional structure, group people with the same skills or who use similar tools or work processes together into departments. It is very similarity in the skills or in the goals, for the same goals or with the same skills, and sometimes with the same skills for the same goal, for the shared goals. It is a graph for showing a matrix structure. You see research department leader, marketing department leader, production department leader, finance department leader, and team project 1, team project 2, team project 3, and with the leaders, and team-based structure, horizontal or vertical teams define part or all of the organization, and network organization. The word network is very popular in these days in organizations, and very important to know anything about the network marketing, network management, networking between people, and everything as a global village is going to reach a networking level of everything together. As a humanistic base, it is very good, but for industry, it can make industry and industrial relationship very, very complicated. Virtual organizations, that's good. It's virtual and not very, very popular location, physical location, low operating costs, and high flexibility. Communication and management is challenge, the best challenge, and community of practice. Group of people whose shared expertise and interest in a joint enterprise informally binds them together. And the final part is integrating employees and legion role. Integrating employees, the first part is task force, a temporary committee formed to address a specific project or problem, and cross-functional teams, and effects of restructuring or performance. When you're talking about the effects of restructuring or performance, you can improve a struggling firm's performance. It is about the feedback, about the looking at the problem at challenges. Challenges are the opportunity for growth in a problem. When you see or your attitude about the problem is an opportunity for growth, this is not a problem, this is a challenge. And it's very, very important and very, very effective attitude to problems, that you can see them as the chances for growth and chances for development, not only a problem for solving. And finally, after reading this chapter, how do you think your career path might differ in a hierarchical versus flat organization? And if you started your own company selling iPhone apps, what organizational structure, for example, would you create? We have about 10 to 15 minutes rest, and after that, I will with you again. Okay, in this part, we want to talk about the organizational culture in, take a minute. Okay, in this part, we want to talk about the organizational culture. In the previous parts, we talk about this organizational structure and organizational design. And we said that organization design has two parts: organizational structure and organizational culture. And we discussed the organizational structure very in details and know the importance of considering the organizational structure in the line of shaping an organization and also managing the organization. Let me check this part that it is. Yeah, it is recording for the other students. Okay, let's go to the organizational culture. After ending this chapter, I want you, and it is expected you are expected that you want to describe the meaning, importance, and origins of organizational culture. Describe the meaning, importance, and origins of organizational culture. 2, Discuss cultures of conflict and cultures of inclusion. 3, identify and discuss how technology and innovation affect organizational culture. And after that, describe how effective organizations manage their culture. The nature of organization culture. We have talked a lot about the meaning of organization, about the culture, about the behavior, about the theory. And we have new phrases, a combination of different words in different areas of knowledge, for example, management knowledge and anthropology knowledge, and anthropological knowledge, and psychological and sociological knowledge. And when they are combined together, we have some new phrases about the new perspective of human behaviors. One of them is the combination of organization and culture. Organizational culture, a system of shared values, norms, and assumptions that guide members' attitude and behaviors. It is basic definition of culture. Culture is about the values. For example, when you say national culture, humanistic cultures, organizational cultures, community cultures, ethnicical cultures, and other things, you are talking at first about their values. Values and norms are the basic part of the organization or the definition of culture. For every type of culture, in different types of culture, at first we have values, norms, ceremonies, or rituals, values, norms, and assumptions that guide members' attitude and behavior. So what is the part of organization here? It is about the member, not about the individual person. It is about the organization members or group members or department members or team members. A system of shared values, norms, and assumptions that guide members' attitude and behaviors. And cultural values. In neurolinguistic programming, as the first integrated approach to human success in neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, one of the basic things that we are discussing about that to managing other people's behavior is values and standards. It's very important. Values are the highest level of expectations, and standards is the lowest level of expectation. If it is not something a standard, it is under a standard, it is not accepted. For example, for grading in the 20 grade system, if you can gain 10, it is a standard. It is the minimum level for accepting. Under 10, you are failed. But the value is 20. The highest level is value. The lowest acceptable level, it is a standard. Between this, the range of passing, for example, a quiz. So when you are talking about the values, values are the highest and best part of everything. And the standard is the lowest and lowest socially or individually acceptable behaviors, acceptable mind, acceptable actions and production and everything. It is related to the what type of organs. It is our organs is, for example, an organization, a company, a person, a body, and a sport, everything. So I want you to know the major differences between the cultures, between the standards and values. And when we are talking about the cultural values, often taken for granted, implicit, taught to new members as they are socialized into the group, and take a long time to evolve and a long time to change. Evolution and change can enhance organizational performance. At first, cultural values, often taken for granted, they are not explicit, They are implicit. It's a very, very important part of values and cultural values because we have two parts. At first, values. Second, norms. Second, rituals. Second, ceremonies. Second part is culture, cultural values. Taught to new members as they are socialized into the group. For example, when a child is socialized, he or she should know the values of his or her society, his or her ethnicity, his or her nationality. It is socialization process of a kid to become a socially acceptable member, as a social member, society member, group member, community member, and take a long time to evolve and a long time to change. Values and cultural values are very, very, very change resistant. They cannot evolve and shape and to be produced so easily and so fast, and they cannot be so easily and so fast to change. Can enhance organizational performance. There's a theory, it is so-called conspiracy theory. In conspiracy theory, one of the basic hypotheses is that, one of the basic assumptions is that some universities, some nations, some organizations all around the world are shaping the behavior of other people. If, I don't know, if this assumption is true, changing and shaping and producing culture is the most important part of human being for controlling of other nations, other cultures. The time of going and bringing guns and helicopters and ships and other things to other country to capture the country is over. We can capture other country minds, other people minds. How? By creating and changing new cultures in their mind. After that, you can control. Why? Because they are control themselves on your own, on your values, not on their own values. Also, it is conspiracy theory. I don't know if it is true or false, but the culture cannot be shaped so easily and cannot be changed so easily. But after shaping, after producing, after evolving, after changing, it has a long-term effect on all areas of a nation, an organization. Can enhance organizational performance. It is very important and also can reduce organizational performance. The nature of organization, culture, artifacts. We have different parts of organization cultures. We can use it. At first, I want to show you here. Four level of culture: artifacts, assumptions, spouse value, and enacted values. And what are artifacts? These are facts, but these are artificial facts. They are artifacts. Physical manifestation of the culture. How can you assess a culture? How can you say that what are the basic values of a culture? By artifacts. But the observable and measurable, or as the text says, by physical manifestation of the culture. Myths and stories. One of the greatest books I have read in my life is a book so-called The Hero with 1,000, The Hero with Many Faces, 1,000 Faces, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, by Joseph Campbell, 1945 or 1948, I think. This is about the mythology of daily life behaviors. Mythology of daily life behaviors. It is about your hero's journey in your life. And awards. What is the punishment? What are the awards? Rituals. Decorations. Office space allocations. Dress code. How people dress each other. Published list of organizational values, and more. You see myths stories, awards, and rewards and punishment. This is reward and punishment, and also awards on the other side, and not related to the reward and punishment. But reward and punishment is some part of the organizational behavior that you can see in the reward and punishment system. How can reinforcement other people or suppress other people's behavior, increasing the probability of recurrency or decreasing the probability of recurrency. And decorations and office space allocations, dress code, how people address each other, publish list of organization managers and other people and other things. The second part is spouse values and norms. Sometimes values and norms are very near together. Between the standards and values are norms. Norms are between the standards and values. Extreme points of standards, values, and norms. The preferred values and norms explicitly stated by the organization. It is spouse values and norms. Very important to know the definition about the nature of organization culture and these elements. The preferred values and norms explicitly stated by the organization. Enacted values and norms. The values and norms employees express based on observations of what actually goes on. Override the spouse values and norms. And assumptions. What are assumptions? Organizational values that have become so taken for granted over time that they had become the core of the company's cultures. Assumptions and pre-assumptions in every human-based gathering, human-based community, human-based society, human-based organization, assumptions and pre-assumptions that sometimes it is called in a word, it is called faith. For example, believe in God or other religions. It is some assumption or pre-assumptions about the nature of the world. These are the basic components to shaping the behavior in every human action in all different parts and different situations of the functions of the actions and other things. So you can see here again, physical manifestation of the culture is artifacts and assumptions. Assumptions are unconscious. If they are conscious, it is not assumption. Assumption and pre-assumptions, you cannot access to your assumption and pre-assumptions so easily because they are, generally they are unconscious and sometimes they are subconscious, but they are not ordinarily so conscious. And spouse value expresses stated organizational value and enacted value. Key dimensions of culture. Strong versus weak and positive versus negative. We don't have any shape here, but I have seen a diagram for showing the key dimensions of culture as positive culture and negative culture, and a strong culture and weak culture. When we are talking about the positivity and negativity in culture, or about the weakness or strength in culture, we are talking about the morality, ethics, and also about the effectivity and productivity. Especially in organization, we are talking about the effectivity and productivity. The ratio between input and output. It is efficiency. When you are talking about the strong culture versus weak culture, or positive culture versus negative culture, the strong and weak has many dimensions about the culture. For example, how stable, how static or dynamic a culture is, how rigid or flexible an organizational culture is, how effective or non-effective, efficient or non-efficient a culture is. It is about a strong culture and weak culture, about how rigid or how flexible. In other hands, how ethical and human-based and employee-based is the culture. have you considered any positive or negative in a culture, negative aspects in a culture or not? Positive and negative culture. It is about the effect of culture in an organization. You know that cultures of conflict is very important. Why? One of the basic things that you should know about the organization as a manager or as a leader, it is conflict management. Shared norms for managing conflict. The basic part of conflict management in an organization, it is about the norms and values again. Why? What is conflict? When you don't have any same decision or same view or same world view about something, you can reach a conflict. It is interpersonal or sometimes intrapersonal. Intrapersonal is conflict within the human beings, not with other people. It is within them. It is intrapersonal. But interpersonal, it is without and out of the persons, one person to another person, one person to organization, one person to society, or one group to another group. The unit is not so important. It is extra, not internal. Shared norms for managing conflict. More shared norms, more shared meaning, more shared goals, less conflict. Why? Because our goal is the same and the way of achieving the goal may be different, but the goals are same. And active or passive? Do you have any active conflict culture? Do you want to talk about your conflicts? Do you want to discuss about them? Or passive? You have a passive aggressive. You can delay and put off the problems until the possible time, until the ending the time. And agreeable or disagreeable. These are the basic personality features for managing a conflict. It is like discussing or not discussing and other things. And you can see them in a diagram here in 4 dimensions: disagreeable, agreeable, active, and passive active. If your conflict management style in active and disagreeable, you are dominating. If you are active and agreeable, you are collaborative. Why conflict? We can share our meanings, share our works, we can share our goals together to achieve the managerial and basic organizational goals. We are agreeable, but we are active, we are talking about it, to resolution, to resolving the conflict, not to converting conflict to a never-ending problem. And passive and disagreeable, it is passive-aggressive. And passive and agreeable, it is avoidant. In personality, we have sometimes a personality, the title is passive-aggressive personality, and avoidant personality, and dependent personality. Avoidant personality disorder, or sometimes avoidant personality type or trait, is the personality that want to avoid everything because of the possible future cost or possible future suffering. It is avoidant personality. So we can here see again that if you are passive, you don't want to have any reaction to your external environment, and you want to be agreeable with others, you will be avoidant. Avoidant people are sometimes very famous and very good people for the society, but the efficiency is not so good. It's not so high. They are not so efficient for their society. Cultures of inclusion. The extent to which majority members value efforts to increase in minority representation, and whether the qualifications and ability of minorities are questions. It is culture of inclusion. Inclusion, not exclusion, it is inclusion. The extent to which it is a type of spectrum, majority members value efforts to increase minority representations, and whether the qualifications and ability of minorities are questions. How intranets can reflect and influence organizational culture, scope, openness to employee feedback and contributions, update frequency, number of intranets, and the use of symbols, stories, and ceremonies. So everywhere we are talking about the culture, we are talking about the ceremonies, about the norms, about the values, about the stories, about the mythology and symbols that can be very wide and international and universal mythology, and can be so narrow. For example, national mythology or national symbols, or the story about the history or legends of the history. And what does it mean for an organizational management or organizational structure? It means that in an organizational management or structure, you can use all of the detailed component, for example, culture-based norms or culture-based values, to achieve the organizational goals by using the individual or social norms dominant in an organization. Scope. Intranets with a narrow scope can reinforce a culture of secrecy and information hoarding. Internets that convey information on a variety of topics and links to other useful sites reflect a culture of openness and teamwork. So the first part and the first component, the first effective factor related to intranets, it is scope of intranets. It is reinforcing narrow scoping or open scoping, open scope of culture. Openness to employee feedback and contribution. A centralized, heavily edited and filtered site reflects a culture in which information flows less freely and employee contribution are not valued. About the contribution and empowerment, we talked it before in the previous sessions, that in modern industries and in modern world of industry, contribution and empowering the employees by their boss, their chiefs, their managers, their leaders is very important and very, very, very deep. It has a very deep effect on the organizational belonging in an employee or a co-worker thinking in a company that because of working in this company, I am getting empowered. I'm empowering myself and the company. The belonging, organizational belonging, will increase to the toughest level of possibility. And you can see here the openness to employee feedback and contribution. Any creative company has a good openness to creativity and contribution. Why not? Every human factor that works in a company has a good brain, has a good back history, every type of history, every back history, every past life history has a good treasure for information, for analysis, for creativity. Why not? They are not robots, they are human beings. So the scope and the extent to which a company allows the employers to share their meaning to the company, to share their goals, and to contribute with the decision-making process and doing and performances, and also feedback from them, the company will use their employee as a huge source of knowledge, as a huge source of creativity, but sometimes in very, very sensitive to any part of harm or mistake. For example, in atomic, nuclear, military industries. Sometimes it is not so good to have very contribution or very openness to feedback. Why? Because it is very sensitive. If you empower and give the employees a lot of responsibility and they are not eligible for that sharing, for that contribution, it can be so harmful and very dangerous. But generally, it is very good to give the employees the contribution. Update frequency. Intranets that are rarely updated are not likely to influence the company's culture and can reflect a culture that does not value employee contribution. Update frequency has poor internal communication and has poor attention to detail. Very, very, very poor communication. When you don't have any share meaning or share goal to your company's employee, it's very hard to have communication. It's only connection. Connection is a part of communication. It doesn't have any meaning. Doesn't make sense for nobody. And number of intranets. This refers to whether there is just one company intranet or several is serving different groups of employees. And the use of symbols, stories, and ceremonies. Because these express a company's culture, intranets can convey such information via news of events affecting the organization, messages from CEOs, an announcement of employees, award programs of importance to the organization. Innovation and culture. Innovation. What is an innovation? Some words, some phrases are very hard to define, very, very hard. Not because of complexity, because of simplicity. They are very simple, but operational and sometimes even conceptual definition is very hard to find or to make or to build an operational or conceptual definition about a word, a phrase, a concept. Innovation is one of them. The process of creating innovation and doing. So is it innovation, creation, creativity? No. Is innovation only operation? Again, no. The combination of creativity and action, creating and doing new things that are introduced into marketplace as products, processes, or services. It is innovation. The process of creating and doing new things that are introduced into marketplace as products, processes, or services. It is types of innovation, radical innovation, systems innovation, and incremental innovation. Radical or disruptive innovation. Major breakthrough that changes or creates whole industries. Major breakthrough that changes or creates whole industry. Just radical innovation. And system innovation. Create new functionality by assembling existing parts in new ways. The same parts, but not the same ways. The same parts in the new ways. It is system innovation. You don't create any new organization, a new company, a new industry. You change the relationship with the existing part and components of organization. And your innovative part, your creative part is about the changing the combination and orders of relationship. And incremental innovation continues the technical improvement and extends the applications of radical and systems innovation. New ventures require entrepreneurship and good management at first. 2, intrapreneurship out of the company. Entrepreneurial activity that takes place within the context of a large organization. It is intra, not inter. When you say inter, it is out. When you say intra, it's my mistake. I think it is inter. It is intra-entrepreneurship. What entrepreneurship? What does it mean? It's a large company with different levels of functionality. When you change the entrepreneurship, the preneurship between the internal parts of an organization, it is intrapreneurship. And entrepreneur's profile: need for achievement, desire to assume responsibility. This is very, very important, very, very important. Mission and vision are the basic parts of the entrepreneurship. Very basic parts. Why? You should have some vision about the future because you're entrepreneur. And after that, you should know that what you should do for achieve that goal, for attaining that goals, for the achievement process. It is entrepreneurship profile. Desire to assume responsibility, you should be responsible, willing to take risks. Forget to innovate something without taking risks. Why? When you want to innovate something, creating and doing something new, basically you want to think out of the box. And to be out of the box and to think out of the box, out of the comfort zone, we have 4 stages. Out of the comfort zone, it is fear zone. Out of the fear zone, it is learning zone. Out of the learning zone, it is growth zone. And again, after growth zone, it is a new comfort zone. So when you want to go out of the box, go out of your comfort zone, you will enter the fear zone. It's fear zone. And after that, it is learning zone. And after that, it is growth zone. Okay? Willing to take risk. It is riskability. You should know about the risk study and account your riskability. And after that, have the courage to go beyond your present situations. As I think Paul Meyer says, opportunities never come to those who never come to those who are fearful. They are captured by those who dare to attack. Opportunities never come to those who wait. Opportunities never come to those who wait. They are captured by those who dare to attack. It is for Paul Meyer. Paul Meyer is one of the philosophers of success about 70 years ago in the mid-decades of 20th century. Opportunities never come to those who wait. They are captured by those who dare to attack. So willing to take risks, willing. You should love your failures. You should love your mistakes. You should love to take the risk if you want to be an innovator and to be an entrepreneur. And focus on concrete results, very, very concrete results, measurable and observable. Corporate research supports existing businesses to provide incremental innovation and to explore potential new technology bases. Existing business, not the new business. It is corporate research. Is responsible for keeping the company's products and processes technologically advanced. It is something like management, like leadership, because it wants to advance maintenance and advance the present companies and the present products and the present results. Corporate culture can be instrumental in fostering an environment for creativity and innovation. Elements of managing organization culture, taking advantage of existing culture, teaching organization culture, and changing organization culture. 3 parts. Taking advantage of existing culture, teaching organization culture, and changing organization culture. Taking advantage of existing culture. Easier and faster to alter employee behavior within the existing culture than it is to change existing history, traditions, and values. It is easier and it is faster to alter, to modify, not to destroy the history of existing culture. And 2, managers must be aware and understand the organization's values. In democratic societies like America, in democratic industries like North America, some countries of Europe, when you are a manager, at first, sometimes manager are coming from out of the company, not in the same only field. For example, you see that a general manager of a car company after that go to, for example, beverage industry. It is not about the product. It is about the management. Managers must be aware and understand the organization's values. And managers can communicate their understanding to lower level individuals. Managing organization culture, again, teaching organization culture. It is about the taking advantage of existing teaching organization culture, organizational socialization, the process through which employees learn about the firm's culture and pass their knowledge and understanding on to others. We are teaching, creating, not changing. We are teaching organization culture to the employees, very formally and sometimes informally, but behavior, and a lot of times with the classes, workshops, and other things and other tools to teaching organizational norms and organizational values to the employees. And organizational mechanism, which is organizational socialization. Examples of organization culture that employees see in more experienced employees' behaviors. It is very, very related to the context of an organization. And corporate pamphlets and formal training sessions. And the last part is changing the organization culture, managing symbols, substituting a story and myth that support the new culture value for those that support old ones. Sometimes personnel, staffs, co-workers, employees in an organization are very proud of working in that organization. To work in an organization in a symbol of pride for them, symbol of to be an expert, symbol of proficiency, symbol of sometimes financial support or financial income, good income. So these are the symbols of working in a company. Or behavioral symbols. For example, if a company is a very small city that all the company, the employees are, for example, from 3 families, and they know each other very good. They have some symbolistic behavioral rituals, behavioral actions, behavioral ceremonies to talk and to transfer information together. When the management is out of the city, when the manager is coming from another city, another state, another organization, he or she should know the meaning of this symbolic relationship and use them. And he or she want to change or manifest new symbols. At first, he or she do that. Substitution is very important and very, very careful and cautious action, not a sudden action and go and order that to have the new norms or new values. It doesn't work. Culture can be difficult to change when upper management inadvertently reverts to old behavior. The stability of change, yes. Change is so hard to take, change so hard to make. But after that, change is so hard to maintain. So at first, for a change, we don't need stability. We need flexibility. After creating the change, after that, we need stability. New values and beliefs must be seen as stable and as influential as old ones. At the end, after reading this chapter, do you think the culture is important to organization performance? Also, you think it is important. What I want you to know about the reasons for being important, and which of the four conflict management culture is the best fit for you, and what are some modern examples of radical systems and incremental innovations. You have 15 minutes from now to take to pass your exam, week 7 exam. And after that, if you have any question, you can email me by the Calim UCMU email, my Calim UCMU email, and I'm there to answering any question. And I hope you have a good week until the next session. The next session will be the last session, I think, and you will have final exam. Have a good time.
Professor. Professor.